Every team's going to go through their ups and downs. You're going to have those times where it seems like all the bounces are going your way, and the other times, well, it just seems like nothing is going your way. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now with the Barrie Colts. They're right now riding a 5-game losing streak, and just the bounces are not going their way. Maybe it's the chemistry with new players and players coming back from the World Juniors, maybe illness, who knows, but there's been quite the difference with this Barrie Colts team as they were contending for top spot in the Eastern Conference. Now they could fall as far as sixth spot in the East if they continue these losses over the weekend, as they've got some pretty tough competition on the way. It starts with Windsor at home tomorrow night, and then the Niagara Ice Dogs on Sunday. So something has to give with this Barrie Colts team. A lot of potential on this lineup, and we've seen it at times. That last win was against the Oshawa Generals New Year's Eve. They won that game by a score of 7-4, and they were dominant as soon as the puck was dropped. But it's kind of like Cinderella. The clock struck midnight on 2024, and 2025, the Colts still looking for that first win as things have changed. But let's look at this recent streak with the Barrie Colts, and we'll go back 5 games before the losing streak, and then we'll look at the 5-game losing streak. For Barrie, they were 4-5. They won 4 out of their 5 games leading up to New Year's Eve. Those wins 4-0 over the Owen Sound Attack. Then they fell 6-5 to the Niagara Ice Dogs. That was a game that the Colts battled back. But then Barrie, they would sweep their home and home at North Bay, 5-2 at home, and a 3-1 win on the road against North Bay before defeating the Oshawa Generals by a score of 7-4. And in those 5 games, the Barrie Colts outscored their opponents 24-13. Everything seemed to be going their way. And remember, they were missing 4 players at the World Junior Championships. Cole Bodwin and Bo Akey with Team Canada, Emil Hemming with the Team Finland, and then Sam Hillebrandt with Team USA. So with those 4 players away, we got to see what the rest of the lineup was capable of to fill the needs and fill the roles. And over that 5-game stretch, here are your top 10 scorers. Dallin Wakely led the way for the Barrie Colts. He had 4 goals, 7 assists, good for 11 points. Tristan Bertucci was lights out on the back end. 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. It looked like he was skating laps around players at times. Riley Patterson, third in scoring over that 5-game stretch. 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points. Bo Jelsma, the leader of this team, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points over the 5-game stretch. Zach Weigel, he had 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points before, remember, he ended up being traded to North Bay before the deadline, but he was playing quite well over that 5-game stretch. Michael Durbridge, 3 goals and an assist. Carter Lowe, 2 goals, 2 assists. We also had Brad Gardner with a goal and 3 assists. Kayshawn Aitchison had 4 assists, and Bodie Stewart, 4 assists. So those are your top 10 point getters over that 5-game stretch. And for the Barrie Colts, it seemed as though everything was going their way. They were ahead of the Niagara Ice Dogs in the Central Division standings. The Barrie Colts weren't really too worried about the Sudbury Wolves at that point because Sudbury was quite a ways behind them. But once they got past the New Year's Eve hockey game, everything changed. The Barrie Colts, they are on that 5-game losing streak, and they've been outscored now 16-5. And when you look at their opponents, that's where you scratch your head because it all started with a loss at home to the Sudbury Wolves. It was a 4-1 final. Sudbury just controlled that hockey game from the get-go, played the perfect road game, and Barrie just didn't have an answer. They couldn't get the puck through the neutral zone. Then they were in Owen Sound, and that was a 5-2 loss to the Attack. And remember, the Owen Sound Attack are on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs in the Western Conference standings. That was also the first game for Owen Van Steensel after the trade that saw Weigel and Parker Vaughn sent to North Bay for Van Steensel and Anthony Romani. So you had a new player join the lineup, but they couldn't really get much going at the Bayshore. After that, they went right to Peterborough, another team at the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings, and they lost that game by a score of 5-2. Then they came home for a game against Kitchener. They lost 4-1, and that's another game where Kitchener just controlled the flow of the game. They were shutting things down in the neutral zone, putting on pressure, and the Barrie Colts had difficulty making those crisp passes that we were so used to seeing during the month of December. And then last night in North Bay, they only managed 22 shots on net in a 2-0 loss to the Battalion, and it was former Colts finding the back of the net in Zach Weigel and Shamar Moses. And that's where we stand right now. As this last 5 games, it's been a night and day difference from what we saw last month to this team. it's almost unrecognizable with how the team has been playing. And to note, the game last night, the Colts had a full lineup as Cole Bodwin and Anthony Romani back in the lineup. Plus, you had Hemming, Hillebrandt in net, and then Bo Akey on the blue line. So everybody's back from the World Juniors. You have your new additions in the lineup, and still something seems off with this hockey team. Now let's look at this losing streak and who's been leading the way in points. That starts with Riley Patterson, a goal and 2 assists. So 3 points for Riley Patterson. Dallin Wakely, way off of what we saw in the previous 5 games, just 1 goal and 1 assist. Bo Jelsma has 2 assists. Owen Van Steensel, in 4 games of work, he has 2 assists, so he's been getting on the board. Emil Hemming, 1 goal. Bodie Stewart, 1 goal. Michael Durbridge, a goal. Kayshawn Aitchison, just 1 goal. And then Evan Passmore, Bo Akey, both with 1 assist. So a night and day difference between the 5 games where they won 4 out of 5, and now with this 5-game losing streak. And what really stands out is when you've got the likes of Tristan Bertucci, no points over the last 5 games over this losing streak after he had 10 points in 5 games of work. So it's really concerning just to see how much this team has changed. Obviously, there's still a lot of time in the regular season. If you're a Barrie Colts fan, there's no need to panic, but there is some room for concern here as we're now past the OHL trade deadline. This team expecting to go deep in the OHL playoffs, but when you've got other teams who added at the OHL trade deadline, look at Oshawa, look at Brampton, Kingston, Sudbury. These are all teams that are also thinking they can be competitive in the Eastern Conference. I know the Niagara Ice Dogs didn't add, but they're a young team that's been surprising many and right now sit first in the East. So for the Colts, as I mentioned, they're going to be home to the Windsor Spitfires tomorrow night. Windsor, they had a big win at home yesterday against the Sudbury Wolves. They're the highest scoring team in the Ontario Hockey League, so that's going to be a tough test. And then they're on the road in Niagara on Sunday, who the Ice Dogs right now first in the Eastern Conference standing. So for the Barrie Colts, I think if we get to the 10-game losing streak mark, I think Colt fans can start to panic. But the schedule not getting any easier. But then they're back in Owen Sound on Wednesday. They host Brampton on next Thursday, so January 23rd. And then they're home to the Brantford Bulldogs on January 25th. So the schedule doesn't get any easier. But the biggest concern, I think, is just how they ended up losing these games, where they're not getting a lot of shots. The passing hasn't been crisp. And we're not seeing those breakout plays that we've seen before. Obviously, other teams are going to adapt. They're going to adjust and figure out ways to slow down the defense from contributing with the offensive side of things. But for the Barrie Colts, we'll have to wait and see where it goes from here. But there's a lot of talent on this team, but right now something's just not clicking. And we'll have to wait and see what happens next. But I just wanted to do a video just to highlight the struggles right now with this Barrie Colts team. And what are your thoughts on this? That's what I'm asking here. What would you like to see change to maybe get this team moving? Should there be different line combinations, or maybe something needs to change with the defensive pairings? Love to see the interactions. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And of course, I'll be at the game tomorrow covering it for Rogers TV, and that game will be at 7:30. And then after the game, expect a recap video of the game between the Colts and the Spitfires. So again, thank you very much for your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Talk to you soon.